Max Verstappen breathing down your neck, that would make me feel a bit tense. Do you think he can do it?
Certainly can do it. We're definitely clear underdogs. It's great to be back in it, but we can do it for sure.
Hello and welcome to the Inside Track with me, Matt Majendie. Now this week we're joined by Steve Knowles. He's one of the key figures at the team. He sits on the pit wall. He's alongside the likes of Pierre Vacher and Laurent Mekies, and he's the head of sporting. And he's joining us to talk about and reflect on the United States Grand Prix. Morning, Steve. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. How's the jet lag? You're actually not looking too shabby.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, not too bad for 3 hours sleep on the plane on the way back yesterday. Slept pretty well last night, so doing okay.
Does it help that the fact you're coming back from a series of wins? I mean, the renaissance has been kind of remarkable from when we last spoke, hasn't it, within the team?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It massively helps with motivation, energy. I think when I last spoke to you was after Hungary, so I think if you told me we'd have had this run of success back then, I would have hardly believed you. It's been pretty phenomenal. It's just nice to be in a position where we can be serious contenders to win races again. Obviously, there's some discussion around the championship, but in some ways we're in quite a nice position really, where we don't need to overthink it too much, because we don't have a lead to protect. We just need to go for it and do everything we can, and we'll see where we end up.
Because you guys are so used to being the hunted, and now you're the hunter. Is it quite fun to have that different role?
I think you'd always rather be ahead. I think anyone who says that they would prefer to be behind is lying, but there are some nice things about it. We just don't. You look at the position McLaren are in. We'd rather be in that position, but there are some difficult things around that. They've got a lead to try and maintain. We're closing the gap, or have closed the gap in terms of performance, and they've got two drivers to try and manage their expectations and their own championship ambitions. So we don't really have any of that to worry about. We can just go and give it absolutely everything we've got every week and see where we get to.
And if we talk about the Red Bull Renaissance, what's happened exactly? How's it happened? How's it? Because it's been seemingly quite a rapid turnaround.
Yeah, I think it's all relatively subtle stuff on the face of it, but it adds up to quite a big difference. You hear so much. There's so much discussion around the balance of these cars. I think probably if you think about the top few, probably all the cars really at this point, in terms of the kind of the raw numbers, in terms of the amount of downforce they have, the amount of power the engine has, like the real fundamentals, all so similar that actually it comes down to real nuanced things, like how the handling balance is and how that interacts with how the tyres degrade or don't. And we've found a few avenues with the setup and a few little actual upgrades and hardware tweaks that have combined to give us an avenue that we hadn't really fully explored before, and it seems to be really suiting the car in a way that we hadn't managed to put together previously.
But it's amazing because you now got the consistency of pace and performance at such different tracks. We see the last four races where you've either won or been runners up.
Yeah,
that's so impressive, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all walked away from Monza thinking, okay, that's great. Monza is pretty unique. There's no other track on the calendar like it, so maybe this is a one-off, and let's enjoy this moment. But it's going to be a tough run into the end of the season based on what happened up to then. And then you go to Baku, and we're good in Baku, and you think, okay, yeah, well, it's certainly not Monza, but there are some similarities because you've got the big long straights there as well. So walk away from Baku thinking, okay, well, maybe we've got a few opportunities to maybe get some wins. And then being good in Singapore was then the moment, I think, for most of us, we thought, actually, we've made some real progress here, because you've got Monza and Singapore, they're chalk and cheese. They're completely different in every possible way. So I think at that point we started to the optimism certainly took a step.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I felt when I was watching Monza, I felt it was a bit like Suzuka or Imola, that it was going to be one of those one-off-ish kind of races, and then McLaren would come back to the fore. Was that a bit the perception in the team, or did you have an inkling already you were heading in the right direction?
It was a big question mark, really. It's true that we have pursued a slightly different setup approach and ethos, which started to show some benefits and bear some fruit in Monza. And it's not just Monza. Theoretically, that could be beneficial anywhere, but you don't know how significant it's going to be everywhere. You don't know if it's like a 1% difference or a 20% difference. So, the, yeah, I think a lot of us felt like it might be Monza specific, and we've seen it throughout this generation of cars. You have tracks where you have maybe got quite a narrow range of speed with the corners. So anywhere that's really high speed, like Suzuka, like Monza, you can kind of dial the car into a track like that because it's got a relatively small operating window, as we call it. So you often see quite big swings in performance there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if somebody's good there, they're going to be a great generalist. They're going to be great at every track. So we wondered if maybe we were one of those, but it appears not, which is good.
I liked. I don't know if you saw Max in the press conference. Maybe you were flying back already before you saw it or whatever. But when he was asked if someone had asked him at Zandvoort when he was 100 plus points behind that he would suddenly be in the championship battle, his response was, "I would have said he's an idiot." I don't know. Did your? I mean, a similar surprise, similar point of view from you.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't one of those idiots. Put it that way. I would happily bet against us, and I mean, still, let's be honest, we're still clear underdogs, but it's great to be back in it. Yeah, I think honestly, from my perspective, winding back a few races, I was just hoping to get a couple more wins, and just be competitive to the end, and maybe get second in the constructors. Is that's been a realistic target for us? Throughout, if we can maybe fix some of the issues that we've had, but to have closed the gap in the drivers like we have is pretty remarkable. So yeah, certainly it's shaping up to be quite an exciting end to the season.
What was it like then in Austin? Is there a real buzz within the team? Because it's just sort of accumulative. You win, runner up, sprint race win, Grand Prix win in the States. What's the feel now? Is there a real buzz everywhere?
Yeah, it's a real feeling of momentum. And we've not had that for quite some time. And it's really nice to have it back because it's amazing. You kind of get used to it. And we obviously had a long period where we would turn up and expect to win. But you also get used to that, and actually having a bit of a lean period then reminds you how great it feels to arrive at the next event feeling like you could be a favourite again. So yeah, and obviously we try not to think too much about the championship because there's still a long way to go. But yeah, we just trying to make sure that we do absolutely everything that we can to get every edge that we possibly can because we know that it could go down to the wire. So it's very much that mentality of trying to get the absolute maximum in every area, and we'll see where it ends up.
Because it was the first time after Austin that Max was finally saying, yes, the championship is possible. It's the first time he sort of pushed that away, and until that point, does that give everyone a lift that there's that belief from him as well?
I think so. I think we all thought it was a possibility, maybe a couple of races ago, but maybe a remote one. Max is always pretty pragmatic, a bit of a realist, and I'm sure the thought has crossed his mind prior to this, but I think probably for him it's just easier to put that out of his mind and not think about that as a possibility, really. But I think it's kind of undeniable at this stage. But I think it definitely gives us a lift. I think even just race wins by themselves would be a massive lift for the team and have been a massive lift for the team. We'll just keep going.
Because we know about his brilliance in the car, but there's been a lot of talk about the sort of Max effect outside of the car, having a bit more input. Have you felt that as well in the role that you do, or has that been less for you that you've had that kind of interaction and that input from him?
I think my relationship with him has been pretty similar throughout the entire year. Obviously, I've taken on a bit of a new role, so we've kind of developed that relationship. I knew him before as a strategist, and now I've moved into a slightly different role, helping him out with the stewards and the FIA and so on. But that's been pretty similar. I think it's more in terms of, we've spoken about it a bit. Laurent has mentioned it in various interviews. It's not so much a change in the relationship. It's more in terms of how we weight the different inputs that we have. So we're still using all the same inputs. So we're using the inputs from the simulator and all our, like, vehicle simulation and vehicle dynamics groups, and also the driver feedback. And we've always used all of those pieces of information when setting the car up. But there's maybe some areas where he'll feel something that perhaps simulation don't quite show. and we're putting a slightly higher weighting on that when it comes to the final decision of where to pitch the setup.
But as engineers, that takes a bit of faith, doesn't it? Because all your numbers and data are saying maybe one thing, and you have to
Yeah.
kind of have faith that Max. I guess 4 world titles helps you believe in what he's saying. But
Yeah, it definitely does. But I think also we, as hopefully good engineers, you know that your virtual world that you create the car in is always going to be flawed. Any kind of simulation is a simplification of reality. You can't possibly capture everything. So there'll be aspects of that simulation that are maybe a bit deficient. There were some areas that are really good. And this is where how you weight the driver feedback is really, really important. I think maybe he's finding something that he's finding an area that perhaps some of our modeling is a little bit deficient, and he's feeling like a knock-on effect in the way the car's behaving that our simulator that we run overnight on Friday, for example, maybe doesn't quite pick up. So we're having a bit more, being a bit more willing to deviate from the virtual world and
Mhm.
just waiting towards what they're feeling on the track.
And have you noticed anything different in Max? I was chatting to Helmut the other day, and he was saying Max seems a happier Max, but I don't know whether that's any different. He always seems fairly similar.
He seems very relaxed, which is great. I think if you take Max as a character, I can imagine this is probably the best situation in many respects he could find himself in. I'm sure he'd prefer to be ahead, but I think he'd probably rather be in the position that he's in now than perhaps in McLaren's position, where perhaps the gap in performance is closed. He knows he's signing up now with a car that he can win races with every week, and we've also got nothing to lose, so he can leave it all out there, be super aggressive, and yeah, there's no need to be conservative. There's no lead to protect. We can just go and give our absolute best, and that I think suits Max's mentality down to the ground, from what I can tell.
It's been quite a transition year, hasn't it, for the change of the teams? Like the look of the pit wall, for example, is different to what it was last year.
Yeah.
Some of the faces that we didn't have before has that taken a bit of time to get used to? I guess Laurent coming in for Christian is a big thing. Also, has it felt like a transition year a little bit for you?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, the new faces on the pit wall, uh, aside from Laurent, obviously, who was brand new to the team, but was in the Red Bull family, so we knew him pretty well. But Rich, for example, who's taken over Jonathan's responsibility with the pit stops. Obviously, Rich has been with us for a long time, so it's not new people. It's just people in new roles. So for sure, there's a bit of a settling period. We obviously have our way of working that's been developed over many years and was developed even well before I joined the team, and is kind of it is ever evolving, and we've evolved it slightly, but not changed everything. So just because there's new people doesn't mean you're suddenly doing things totally differently. So there's still a good degree of familiarity. When we're sat there in the race, making our decisions, calling pit stops, all that stuff, there's a good degree of familiarity because people are still saying the same things, following the same steps to make a pit stop happen or whatever it might be. But of course, when you've got people in new roles, and I include myself in that, there's a period of settling, gaining confidence in that role, and yeah, Laurent is also particularly for me as well, because he's done the job that I'm doing at Ferrari in the past. He's a really useful sounding board for me because he has a lot of experience in with the FIA, having also worked there in the past. So yeah, that's a really interesting additional factor in terms of how I go about things.
So is it quite different then in regards to your role, having Christian as a boss and Laurent a boss in that regard? Because I guess they're different backgrounds and different ways of operating, I sense.
Yes and no. I think, as I say, Laurent knows a lot. Having worked in the FIA, he knows a lot of people, knows a lot of the characters. So that obviously helps. I think to be honest, both Christian and Laurent are great bosses, and they're very keen to let us all develop our own style, and generally pretty hands off in most areas, and just give guidance as and where it's needed.
Just talking about the the pit wall again, and that, and I know while it's a bit nuanced, it does feel like you guys have found your identity. As I know, as a collective. I'm not saying it wasn't the case before, but just that does gradually of the characters' personalities and slightly different approaches. That does that feel the sense in this latter half of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've, I would say, there's already people who've been on there for a long time. Like GP's been on there for a long time, obviously. Woody's new into race engineering. I myself have been there for a few seasons, albeit in a different role. So we all know each other very well as characters, and we've been working well together for a long time. But as you say, I think probably there is a period where you gain that confidence in those critical situations, and yeah, those split seconds can count between if you're a little bit unsure of making a call or you've got absolute confidence. They do add up, definitely over the course of a race.
I sort of want to dip into the engineering meeting after the race and get a sense of what it's like. Is everyone sort of in Austin really bullish and buoyed, or are you actually all just have very sensible heads on and you reflect and think, actually, what can we still do better? Is it that sense? I kind of want to get a feeling of what that's like.
Definitely buoyed.
Yeah.
I have to say, I took off straight after the race. So I left. You might have heard GP. So on Max's in lap, told him to enjoy the celebrations and to see him in Mexico. I was on that flight as well, so I didn't actually debrief properly with the team this time. But I'm sure we will follow the same process. We always do. We always go through the same debrief, and we always cover the same topics. And it's like that almost exactly for that reason. So win, lose or draw, you always go through the same process of discussing precisely what could have been better about the car, and both drivers have very strong opinions about that, whether we won the race or come fifth, sixth, whatever. So we always go through that same process, and I think it's important to do that. So you remain objective, and the fastest car on the grid always has plenty of things that you can improve about it. That's always the case. So we always make sure to capture that from the drivers. But yeah, for sure, the feeling and the tone of the conversation and the optimism looking ahead is definitely transformed over the last month and a half.
Do you get the feeling that McLaren are feeling the pressure a bit? I mean, Oscar, who takes an example, seems to have been a little bit off the last few races. Do you sense that suddenly you have a Max Verstappen breathing down your neck? That would make me feel a bit tense, but I wonder if they're feeling it.
It would make me tense, I'm sure. I think it's a tricky position they're in because they've obviously got two drivers and they're trying to manage that in the fairest way possible. So that puts additional strain on the team, not just the individual drivers and the individual car crews. Because I can totally see, and you can see it playing out with the last few races, with them reversing the slow stop and that kind of thing. They really don't want to arrive at the end of the season and have put the drivers in a position where they inadvertently influence who finishes ahead. So I think that probably adds to it. And I think when you've got quite a complicated situation to manage like they have, and they know that they've got a four-time world champion bearing down on them who actually has a very, very simple objective, really. We haven't got a situation anywhere near as complicated to manage. We could just go for it. I can well imagine that would make it an even more ominous prospect.
How real do you think this title number 5 is? Do you think he can do it? Do you think he will do it?
Certainly can do it.
Yeah.
Whether he will do it, we're clearly underdogs. And I'm just wary that, we see with these cars how quickly performance can ebb and flow. So you do always wonder or worry that, the next event could be the time where we struggle, and we can't really afford to have any races where we struggle. At this point, we need to have strong performances all the way to the end. So we're definitely clear underdogs, but we can do it for sure. Yeah, it's a definite possibility.
I'm interested if because you guys obviously McLaren took the foot off the gas in terms of extra development because of the position they were in, and you guys have kept on pushing. Does that have any impact on 2026 at all? Like, is there a danger that impacts what we see next season, or we might not know the answer for a while on that one?
We won't know for sure, and I think it's going to be difficult to quantify. I mean, we haven't done anything massive. It's all been pretty subtle stuff. There's been no major major changes in the architecture of the car, the kind of thing that would take months and months to achieve. There's kind of tweaks here and there. And of course, a lot of work goes into those tweaks. But it's, we are, in terms of split, we are 95 whatever percent focused on next year's car. So yes, it might be a slight disadvantage, but I think if you look at what it's produced, it was worth it to focus a bit on this year.
I think from spectators and our point of view, it's been fantastic because you've suddenly turned a 2-horse race into something really differently thrilling. So it's great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much. And good luck in Mexico. Let's hope the run continues.
On to the next win. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's all for this week. Next week, I'm back with Rick Edwards to discuss everything that happened at the Mexican Grand Prix. Thanks for joining us here on the Inside Track podcast. Remember to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or all three if you fancy. Search for the Inside Track podcast or check out the show notes. The Inside Track is funded and made by BBC Studios, a commercial company that's wholly owned by the BBC. It's produced and edited by John Weeks. Video editing and social media is by Georgina Revel, and James Cook is the executive producer.